All right, hello and welcome to the Miracle Morning for Network Marketers audio series / podcast, depending on where you might be finding this information and this content at the moment. My name is Pat Petrini. I'm the co-author of the #1 best-selling book, The Miracle Morning for Network Marketers. And in creating this book, we reached out to some of the very top network marketers in the world, and we interviewed them, some of the top performers, both people that have been around the network marketing world for years and even decades, as well as people that are fairly newcomers that have just been around for the last few years, but have had extreme success in those just those last few years. And we reached out, we interviewed them. That's what this series is all about. You're going to hear interviews from a number of different people. And in these interviews, we dive into not only their tips, strategies, techniques, things that have really accelerated their business, but also, and of course this was sort of the thesis, the theme of the book is the Miracle Morning for Network Marketers. We delve into their morning routines and their daily rituals, things that they consider to be critical for success that are really important for them to do every single day. And what we found, the whole concept of the Miracle Morning is that not every successful person does all of these different things every day, but just about every successful person does some of these things every day, has some of these daily rituals, oftentimes morning rituals, and so we dive into that in this audio series. Now, if you're not familiar with the book, you can check out the book, of course, at Amazon. Just go to Amazon and search for The Miracle Morning for Network Marketers. You'll find it right there. And then, of course, you can also go to our website. You may be listening to this recording right there on our website, but if you're not, if you're finding it somewhere else, go to tmm4networkmarketers.com. That's TMM, like the Miracle Morning, for FOR, networkmarketers.com. Again, my name is Pat Petrini. I hope you're going to enjoy this interview. I know you're going to enjoy this interview. You might want to have a pen and paper handy, and on with the show. Thanks a lot. All right, well, welcome everybody to the call. This is Pat Petrini, and I'm very honored to have a special guest on the call with us here today, Jennifer Glacken. Jennifer, you there?
I sure am.
Okay, well, Jennifer, thanks so much. I really appreciate you being on the call here and being part of this project with us. I'm excited to have you as part of it.
Thanks. I feel honored to be asked, and I'm excited to be participating.
Yeah, and let me give Jennifer just a quick introduction here. Jennifer is with the Shackley Company. Really, for anybody that's been around the network marketing world, everybody knows Shackley, one of the really well-respected companies in the industry that's been around for a long time and has just done great things in and around the industry. And Jennifer has been one of the top earners with that company. They have something called the Wall of Honor. It's the highest, one of the highest forms of recognition that they have at the Shackley Company. And Jennifer has earned multiple positions on that wall for numerous years, including the top position as the top enroller a few years back. She's part of the Growth Council with Shackley, which is the fastest growing teams. The people with the fastest growing teams are asked to kind of get together and be part of this council, where they get to kind of talk about corporate direction and kind of advise with the company. And so needless to say, Jennifer has accomplished a lot with the Shackley Company. And this was your first network marketing company that you were introduced to as well, right, Jennifer?
Yes, it is. It's amazing. I hit a home run, I think, on the first try.
That's right. Yeah, it's awesome. And so how long? I know you said that you were. Tell us a little bit about how you got introduced to it. I know you were kind of a customer of the products for a while, and then eventually decided to do the business. How did that work? What made you actually eventually switch over to the business side?
Well, we got started because of the products. My son was really unhealthy when he was first born. He was born back in 1992, and a friend had the courage to share the Shackley cleaning products with us. She thought they would improve the health of our home and therefore improve the health of my son, which was exactly what happened. And so we were customers for 6.5 years, loved the products. But my husband lost a job, and in 1999 he came home. He had been with Sears for 29 years. He came home at 3 in the afternoon and didn't have a job anymore. And we were homeschooling our kids and just really enjoyed the lifestyle that we were living at that time. And so we were trying to figure out what could we do to bring income in that we could protect our lifestyle with. And so we decided to build a Shackley business. And what's kind of funny about it, at the time, we were just looking at it as this little interim position while my husband was looking for a job. But I fell in love with the industry. I fell in love with helping people every single day improve their health and improve their wealth. And so 14 years later, I'm still here.
Yep, I love it. and I didn't ask you this for anybody. Where are you located out of?
I'm currently in Perrysburg, Ohio.
Okay, perfect. And so, in as we kind of went through all these different questions that I ran you through, one of the things that was just really common thread, that it's obviously something that is really, really a big part of yourself. It's a big part of the success that you've had over the years. Is you've obviously intentionally worked very, very hard on yourself. And so I guess I wanted to ask you a little bit about that. Talking a little bit about what were some of the things that you had to learn, being brand new, when you decided to kind of dive into the business side. What were some of the sort of skills that you felt that you really had to learn to make it up towards the top 1% as you have?
Well, when I first got started, I didn't understand the industry, so I thought at first I had to learn sales skills and customer service skills because I was looking at it just from a customer acquisition perspective. And, of course, I went out and I did a lot of courses, had some training, took a lot of things like Brian Tracy classes and read a ton of books on the sales cycle. But as I learned about the industry and started actually diving into studying the industry, I realized I had to learn leadership skills and I had to work on me. I had to be a better communicator. I had to learn how to ask questions, how to draw information out of people. I had to learn how to match people's needs with what Shaklee had to offer. And if it wasn't a right fit for someone, I also had to be okay with letting people walk out the door and not closing the sale. And I actually think that's one of the hardest things for people in this industry to really grasp, is that it's not for everyone. And until we get to the place where we're comfortable saying, okay, that person is not the right fit for them, and we're okay letting them go, because so often people just cling to people and they're so desperate for those people to say yes. And it's not right for everyone. And so those are all skills that you have to learn, and you really have to work on yourself to learn those skills. You kind of have to get yourself out of the way. That's a phrase I use a lot with my team, is get yourself out of the way so that you can really be in a conversation with someone.
Yeah, I love it. And so you mentioned any others that come to mind? You mentioned what are some of the other people that are sources of information, I guess, that have just had a big influence on you over the years that you've learned some of these skills from?
Well, I hired a business coach. I've actually had numerous business coaches, and I think each one has brought a different flavor to what I've learned from them. I have done a lot of Tony Robbins training. I did the Pacific Institute from a guy named Lou Tice. He's out of, I think it's Seattle, Washington is where they are based, and Lou Tice is no longer alive. But he had an incredible course on working on your thinking and what goes on in your head. And I think I took that class 5 or 6 times. It was a huge investment. It was around $2,500 each time we took it. And my husband took it with me. And it was one of those things that was life-changing for us as a couple, but really life-changing from a business perspective when you really start to understand what's going on in your head and how much we limit ourselves, and sometimes that negative chatter that we don't even realize is there, that we have to stop in order to really truly be successful.
Yeah, and another person that you had mentioned that I thought just sounded really interesting. I'd asked you about how if you developed any self-confidence, or if that was something you worked on, and you mentioned your experience with Dr. Barbara Belk. Tell us about that.
Dr. Belk was an introduction to me. She was introduced to me by a CEO of a company, and she only did executive CEO training. And I was so intrigued with how she worked. She has a PhD in clinical psychology and was really very focused on how the mind worked. And I had the good fortune of being able to work with her for a number of years. She became a great friend and still is a really good friend today. But she helped me figure out me and helped me sort of figure out what was going on in my head, in my life, the direction I wanted to go in. She helped me identify the skills that I had and the skills that I didn't have. And one of the things that I loved about Barbara was she wasn't a big believer of fixing the things that you didn't have. She really wanted you to capitalize on your strengths and then hire out for your weaknesses. And that's something that you have to learn. Well, don't you find that so many people feel like, oh, my gosh, I've got to work on my weaknesses, and so they spend all this time focused on weaknesses instead of focus on your strengths and hire out. There are so many people who are good at some of the things that we're not good at or things we don't want to do, and what a way to utilize your time efficiently, and also you can get better and better at the things that you're really good at.
Yeah, I think that is brilliant advice. I totally agree with you. I'm not sure who I had heard it where it kind of stuck with me, but But I agree with 100%. Let's capitalize on our strengths and let weaknesses be weaknesses to some degree. And I love what you said, hire out. That makes a ton of sense. I guess
I love it.
I was going to ask you about that a little bit later, but just on that topic, just on the topic of hiring out, I know you have kind of a team. You have some personal assistants that you utilize. Tell us about like how you who you do hire out to. What do you use your assistants for? Like what's some of the stuff that you have sort of systematized in that way?
Oh, my goodness. There's a lot of things that I like to hire out for. I'm not somebody who wants to spend a lot of time on the computer doing spreadsheets, doing some of the day-to-day tasks that are necessary from a business perspective. And so having a large customer base and a large business base, I have a number of Excel spreadsheets with people who are building a business, people who have built the business in the past and maybe fallen by the wayside, customers who are active, inactive customers, all those types of things. So I found a woman in a town out in the Chicagoland area who is phenomenal at creating spreadsheets, and so I hired her service, and so she maintains the spreadsheets. I have another person who does my birthday alarms. There's a lot of birthday cards that I send out personally, but she does all the e-birthday cards, and it's a really big job when you've got thousands and thousands and thousands of people that you're in community with. You want somebody who's going to handle that for you. I've hired people to create websites. I've hired people to do some of my social media stuff, although I have to share here that if you want your social media to be you and be authentically you, I think it's really important to do it yourself.
Right.
I've hired out at different times to have people do it, and when I go in and I look at the content, it's not me. So that's one job that I've taken back. I hired out for a while and took that job back because I just think it's important to be authentically you, and that's a place where you can tell. At least I felt like I could tell.
Right.
So those are a couple things. Customer service stuff, sending out newsletters, sending out thank you notes for purchases and things like that. Those are things that have been very easy to hire out. Even creating some of the newsletter content. So off the top of my head, those are just some of the things that I'm thinking of that I've hired out for.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I loved is you had said be comfortable with good enough. Yeah. And I think that's an important thing because I know for sure that that's something that I need to get more comfortable with. So that kind of stood out to me. What do you mean by that?
Well, there's this element of perfectionism in a lot of folks, not everybody, but it seems like in this industry we attract a lot of people who are perfectionists. And for example, doing a newsletter, does the newsletter have to be perfect? Is it going to take you all month to create this perfect newsletter with all this great information, and then you have to turn around next month and do the same thing? Well, for me, a newsletter needs to be good enough. You need to get the newsletter out. You need to make sure your customers are seeing your information. You need to have your business partners seeing consistent information. But does it have to be perfect? No, it needs to be good enough. So I learned to buy a pre-made newsletter that's about the Shackley products, and so that was very simple to do. The person who creates it does a phenomenal job. All I do is have to buy it. It's color. It's already folded when I get it. And I actually send it to a printing company. I have the printing company ship it out to all my customers for me.
Yep.
But that's good enough. It's one of those things that I could create a newsletter, and maybe I want to put these phenomenal testimonials or recipe ideas or whatever people think they need to put in there, but I really think that's one of the things that holds people back. It gets them caught up in busy work and sort of the management side of the business versus being out there talking to people, which is the number one thing we need to do in this industry is talk to people, and there's a lot of things that can distract us from that. So I say being good enough in all the things that are not talking to people and get out there and just talk to people.
Yeah, I love it. Switching topics just a little bit, as I wanted to ask you a little bit on the recruiting side of things, talking a little bit about warm market versus cold market sponsoring, and you talked about having multiple fishing holes. How do you kind of look at those different topics?
Well, there's a whole bunch of different directions. So I'm going to start talking about if you need to stop me, guide me in a different direction. But, I think fishing holes are extremely important, that you need to be in a number of different fishing holes, and I've always heard that 5 is a really good number, to have 5 different fishing holes where you're meeting people. And so, it could be a Bible study, it can be a kids, maybe your kids are involved in sports, and so maybe you're going to sporting events, maybe you're a golfer, maybe you're in a book club, it could be your neighborhood, there's just a lot of different places, business networking groups, chambers of commerce, the list goes on, but you need to have places where you're meeting new people. When I do coaching coaching and work with my team, one of the things I ask them every week is, who are the next 3 people that you're talking to? Who are the next new 3 people that you're talking to? And let's role play some of those conversations so that when you get off the phone with me, you go out and you make phone calls to new people. Now, 3 people might not sound like a huge number to anybody, but if you tell somebody who's brand new to go out and talk to 50 people, they get scared and nervous and don't talk to anybody. So we take it into a real small little chunk. Let's go talk to the next 3 people. And the minute you've talked to those 3 people, call me, fill me in on what happened. Let's see what the next steps are, and then let's talk about the next 3. And so it's a real small chunk that we use, and it's an easy way to talk to people. So you have to have fishing holes to have new people to talk to. Now, in terms of the different markets, I don't just look at things as a warm and a cold market. And when I answered this question before, Pat, you probably got sick of listening to how I talked about it, but I look at it as the hot. I look at it as the hot market, the warm market, the cool market, and the cold market. I really look at it as 4 different things. The hot market are your closest friends and family, the people. If you had a fire in your house or you had a big emergency, you could call those people and say, can you get over here and help me now? And those people would be right there. Now, maybe if they live far away, they'd drop everything and they'd come to your service. You know, they are the people that you really have in that tight circle in your family. I usually say family. It's not always family. It could just be close friends. But these are people that you can call and invite to listen and learn about what you're doing, and it's very simple to get them there. They would come no matter what. Now, these aren't necessarily what you're building your business on, so I just like to be clear about that, but they would come, and they're probably going to be wanting to help you, wanting to support you, and so they would probably introduce you to some people that they thought might be interested, okay?
Right.
So that's the hot market. The warm market are people that you know, but you're not going to call and say, hey, I've got a problem, can you come help me, because they aren't that close of a friend. Those people you've got to invite based on their needs. So maybe they just lost a job. Maybe they are financially struggling. Maybe you've heard them say they wish they could take a vacation and they can't. They need some extra income. So you're going to invite them based on their need and how what you offer matches their need. The cool market, you're probably going to do in a very similar way, but the cool market knows you even less than the warm market. The cool market I like to think of like in a chamber of commerce that you might know who some business owners are. Maybe you go to the chamber functions. Maybe you're in a chamber networking event. And so you know faces, you know names, but you're not going to call them up and talk to them in the same way that you talk to a neighbor or a good friend because they don't know you that well. So once again, you've got to figure out what their need is and match their need to what you offer. The cold market is people that you don't know. So it's really easy to just be bold and just put it out there that you've got an opportunity and you're looking for go-getters and, is this something that they would be interested in? Or you can always ask them, do they know someone who would be interested? I've used the phrase, especially since I've just moved to Perrysburg, Ohio. I love saying to people, something, I'm new to the area, I'm expanding my business, and I'm looking for a go-getter type. Who do you know that might be interested or might be that type of personality? Maybe somebody who wants to make a couple extra $1,000 a month. I change my phraseology a little bit depending on who it is I'm talking to.
Sure, you're right.
Easy with the cold market. You just lay it out there because you're probably never going to see them again. You're not going to say, well, I'm going to try to develop a relationship with somebody I saw at the post office once. It's just not going to work. You may never see them again. So you've got to be a little more bold and forthcoming with your conversation.
Yeah, and you also, as far as like buy leads and do different things like that, that would be kind of totally in the cold market as well, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
How about is social media a big part at all in terms of where like prospecting for you, or is it mostly kind of offline prospecting for you?
No, something, I do prospect through social media. I've got Facebook pages, I've got Twitter pages, I've got LinkedIn pages. And so, I use each one of those tools a little differently. I actually find Facebook and LinkedIn to be far more, at least a lot easier for me to get referrals and prospects from that type of a format than the Twitter.
Yeah.
But I have definitely gathered a lot of prospects that way and a lot of leads that way. So, social media is what's going on right now. And actually, I need to figure out Instagram a little bit better and Pinterest a little bit better because both of those are really hot right now as well. But I think everywhere that you are in community with other people can be a prospecting ground. And so you just have to utilize it that way. If you're putting content out there about, I'm drinking my tea or I just woke up, those are probably not the things that are going to engage people in conversation. I'm always trying to figure out a way to engage people in conversation, and then people who like my posts or people who comment on something that I've got on a thread, those are the people I go back to and try to do some private messaging with and see if I can take that conversation offline because I want to get them on the phone and talk to them.
Yeah. Now, what about once you've got somebody on board I'm always interested in asking people about kind of their getting started process. And there may be a couple steps that maybe like, company unique or whatever, but what are kind of the steps that you'll walk a new person through once they're getting started?
Well, I've got 7 things that I want them to do, and so 2 of them are definitely company-focused, so they've got to enroll with the business kit, and then they've got to set up their auto ship. So those are the first 2 steps. But then I want to know what's their goal, and I'm not looking for, their lifetime goal, because a lot of people haven't been dreaming. Once you get into this industry, you tend to dream more.
Right.
I just want to know, what do you want to do in the next 90 days? So I'm not looking for something massive. I just want to kind of understand, where are you at right now? What are you looking for? What would you like to have happen in the next 90 days? Then I'm going to talk to them about the most important thing that we do, which is get in front of people. So we need a list of names, and then we need to start figuring out, are we going to sit down one-on-one with these folks? Are we going to get into group meetings? And I typically encourage people to do some type of a business launch. And the business launch typically takes people 2 to 3 weeks to get set up. So in the meantime, though, we want to be talking to people, because that's critical. We've got to get them talking to people. I want to get them plugged into the team. And so we've got team activities on a weekly basis. We've got conference calls and webinars and product training and business training, and so we want to get them plugged into something every week where they're being consistent and consistently in front of the info. And then I've created a training program for my team, which we've had since 2000, so for about 14 years now, which is really one of our unique things that we do as a team. And it's a training program that teaches you about network marketing, about the business, and about the products. But I think that 7-week training is something that has really helped our team to move forward faster and to be able to really grow quickly, because we're getting people up to speed very rapidly.
And what does that training program consist of? Is it calls that people are doing? Is it kind of email communication? Is it what does that training program consist of?
It's in a webinar format. They get a training manual. They come to the webinar each week, and then all the webinars are recorded. And so they've got homework each week, and their upline is intricately involved with them. So if you were an upline on the team of somebody who's taking the training, your person's in training, and you get information about how you're supposed to follow up with them. But each week the homework is all activity designed. It's about getting them into action and talking to people. And so the goal is that by the end of the training that they are up at that first leadership level in our industry. Typically they do it way faster than at the end of 7 weeks, but it just depends on the person. But that's the goal, is to get them to that first leadership level.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a really cool thing that you've implemented. Now, jumping topics again. So, of course, we're putting together the Miracle Morning for network marketers here, and the book and the content that we'll have on the site. And so, talking a little bit about the Miracle Morning, and I wanted to ask you just a little bit about kind of your daily routine. I know you've got a lot of energy on kind of your morning routine and what you kind of do in your morning routine, and also a little bit about why you think that's so important. But first off, if you could kind of just walk us through your routine each day.
Sure. It's pretty consistent. So I think that's one of the keys is to the more consistent you are, the easier it is. But I get up around 6:30 every morning. That was a little challenge when I moved from Central Standard Time to Eastern Standard Time. I felt like I was getting up about an hour early. But I'm up at 6:30. I spend about 15 minutes in solitude or meditation, just sort of thinking about the day and sort of organizing my thoughts around what I'm going to do. But I also close my day out the same way. So I've already started some of the thinking about the new day the previous day, if that makes sense.
The night before. Yeah,
yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
How have you always done that? Always kind of practice kind of solitude meditation, or is that something that you did kind of as you started getting into business, or what? I think when I had little ones, as soon as I had my kids, I needed a little bit of solitude every day. So I was always trying to get up before the kids, and I think that's really where it started. So it wasn't necessarily because of the business. It was more just knowing I needed a space to clear my head and to just have a little time alone. Yeah.
So.
Perfect. Okay, and then after that, then where do you go from there?
Then I work out, and so I work out pretty much 6 days a week. I do power yoga. I have a personal trainer that comes. I do one mild yoga thing, and I love to do power walking, and so there's a lot of different things that I'm doing, but I'm definitely working out. It's really important for me, one of the most important things. And then afterwards, I'm really into health, so I drink a smoothie, take my vitamins, and then I handle all of my urgent emails, and I try to get my urgent emails done in about 15 minutes. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but I really try to take these little chunks of time, and I'm always trying to keep my emails at no more than 5 in my inbox, because it's very overwhelming when you go into an email system and you've got massive emails. I think it sort of distracts you from the day. So then after I've handled those emails, then I plan a little bit more about the details from my day of what I'm going to actually do. I shower, and I'm ready to go by 9 a.m.
I love it. And again, like, so as this kind of, how you said you're very consistent. So how long would you say you kind of had this morning routine?
Well, I would probably say since about 2001 or 2002, so for probably about 12 years.
Yeah. And why? What kind of difference do you think? I mean, why do you think it's so important to have what does this routine do for you every day?
Well, I know when I didn't have the routine, I always kind of felt like I was floundering a little bit. It was almost like when you go to an office, when you have a corporate job, there's a routine to that in a sense because you've got to get in the car, you've got to drive there. There's certain things that you have to do from a business perspective once you get there. And Dr. Belk spent a lot of time helping me figure out what the best way to structure my day and start my day was for maximum productivity. So she really helped me to hone in on what I needed to do. And as we started playing with it a little bit, I got this system down, and it works phenomenal. And I feel like I'm on top of things. I'm ready to go in the morning. The consistency and consistency in so many pieces of our business is really critical. You know, consistency of making sure you're calling people on a regular basis, that you're out there prospecting consistently. That consistency is huge. So from a routine perspective, it's been huge for me. Just I know what to expect each day. I do it, and I feel awesome, and I feel really ready to go and mentally ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what about journaling? Is that something that you kind of do in the morning, or you kind of do as ideas come up? Or I know you mentioned that you do that, but is that like a regular daily thing, or something you do kind of here and there?
I journal every day, but I do it in different ways. Like yesterday, I decided to journal to my kids, and so I wrote both of them sort of an entry in my journal, and I actually emailed it off to them. And it was just that I was feeling really proud of them and just some of the things that they've accomplished. My kids are 21 and 19. They're both in college, so I just sent them my journal entry essentially. And so it's different things. During the week, I'm journaling about where I'm at in the business, just little different topics, maybe things that I've, my to-do list, and sort of flushing some of the ideas out in the to-do list. But I actually like to do that in the early afternoon. I like to do that. I typically take lunch around 12:30, and I make myself something healthy. I sit down, I have a cup of tea, and I actually force myself to sit down and not be on the phone, not do emails, not do all the things that a lot of people do. It's sort of like they work through their lunch. I force myself to take a lunch, but that's also where I do my journaling. So for me, it's a time of reflection, but it's also a time of working through some things and getting excited about some projects that I've got coming up.
Yeah. Hey, how about visualizations? I know that you said that dream boards are a big thing that you've done and do with your team. How else do you use visualization?
You know, the goal boards are critical for knowing where you're going in your dreams, but I like to visualize different things. So if I'm speaking, I like to visualize what the room's going to look like. If I've got some jokes I'm trying out, how the jokes are going to work out. Well, it's kind of funny. I'm really working on my speaking right now, and I don't consider myself to be a funny person, so it's something I've been trying to add in as a little bit of humor. And so visualizing where the little jokes fall into my presentation, and then how the people are going to react to the jokes. Right. So I do a ton of visualizing, and I think that actually came from my days as a ballet dancer. I was a dancer for many years. For 12 years, I was a professional dancer, and so for me, you had to visualize the performance. It's kind of like you've probably heard before that they've taken basketball players and they've done tests where they have them just visualizing making the shots versus guys actually going to the court and practice. And the guys visualizing end up being more effective than the people who actually went and practiced. So it was the same with ballet, and I believe it's the same with every piece of what I do. So, role-playing a conversation is, in essence, visualizing how that conversation should go. And it could be a quick 5-minute visualization where you close your eyes and you really just sort of visualize through what you're going to do, how you're going to accomplish it. I do it with my workouts. My trainer's really pushing me right now with a couple of things. My yoga instructor's pushing me to do the crow pose. And so I keep visualizing, what that's going to be like. So I use it in a lot of different areas in my life.
Yeah, it is really amazing, and I think especially when you see some of that research, exactly like you're talking about, that in many ways the visualization is exactly equivalent for our brain as far as actually doing it. It's really incredible, and I think that a lot of people underestimate the power of visualizations. So other thing I wanted to ask you about, and then before move on here a little bit, is affirmations. Is that kind of a normal part of your day as well?
It is. The affirmation process I learned from Lou Tice, and it's something that I've just taken with me. And I have stacks and stacks. It's kind of fun when we just moved from the Chicagoland area out here to Ohio. I found loads and loads and loads of all of my previous affirmations. I saved them, and when I went back and looked at them, I had dated them, and I could see where I had accomplished item after item after item on that list.
Yeah.
It was really empowering to see how powerful affirmations can be. So as long as you use them properly, if you write on a card, I will not eat chocolate, well, that's a negative, so it can't be an affirmation because you can't use negative words in an affirmation, because what you're going to plant in your subconscious is chocolate, chocolate, chocolate.
Right.
You're going to be thinking about it all day. So you have to do them properly. You have to write them in the present tense. You have to write them with emotion in there. You've got to write them about a future occurrence as if it's happening right now, and it has to be positive. So I love using the affirmation process, and I love tying my affirmations to my goal board. If you do 6-week affirmations, which you're not supposed to have an affirmation longer than 6 weeks, if you do 6-week affirmation cards and create a goal board around those things that you're accomplishing in the 6 weeks, it is such a powerful visualization, and you tie it into what you're saying to yourself every day on a subconscious level, and you can move very quickly forward through whatever your goals are that you've set for yourself.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, excuse me, jumping topics just a minute, I wanted to ask you, as you were kind of coming up, as you were getting started, I know that there's a lot that you and your family have kind of overcome to get to where you're at. But what were some of were there any doubts or limiting beliefs that you were kind of really up against as you were getting started and kind of making your way up the chain with Shackley?
Oh my gosh, there's loads and loads of things, and I think that if I would go back to the very beginning, we started our business because my husband lost his job, and so when Dan went back to work, that was probably the first moment where I had sort of the whole thing fell apart mentally for me, because I had a very focused goal. We were going to pay the bills each month. That was why I was doing the Shackley business, and the minute he got this exciting job for himself, it was right in the field he wanted it in. It was a promotion from what he had been doing before. He was really excited, and I had this moment of, oh my gosh, I can't do this by myself. I can't do this if he's not here with me, because we were homeschooling the kids. And so massive doubt set in, but in reality, it wasn't just the doubt. It was the fact that my goal had changed. And, you had to go back to the drawing board. And I'm so happy that I had to do that, because if I hadn't had to do that, I couldn't help my people through times when their goals change. And for everyone, this happens consistently. We all have our goals change for a variety of reasons, not necessarily your husband going back to work, but, something happens and goals change for people. But I also think there were so many times, when we first got started, there were all the no-shows. There was a time that I went across country. I got in a plane and actually flew out to California to do an event with a new business partner. And when I landed I talked to her before I got on the plane. We were all ready to go. But when I landed, I couldn't get a hold of her. I had her address, so I drove to her house. I had my rental car, drove to her house. Everything was shut up. The curtains were all closed. I was ringing the doorbell. She didn't answer. And it was one of those moments when you think, oh, my gosh, maybe I can't do this. What in the world was I thinking? Why am I across the country? And I can't, the event isn't happening. And we had quite a few things booked, and nothing happened. And so when I got back on the plane, my husband's like, well, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? It's all those negative thoughts that come up. And so I think we all have to go through those experiences, though. We have to go through every one of those steps, because our folks are going to go through them. My team has had the no-shows. My team has gone to work with a business builder who hasn't been there. My team has, called people, and the people have hung up on them and told them they don't want to do Shackley anymore. All of the things that we go through in this business, but each piece, each challenge is what gets us stronger, and it's that inner fortitude that we build that helps us to get to the level of success that we're shooting for.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, on the topic of, I wanted to ask you a little bit about kind of prospecting, building rapport, kind of closing. I mean, it's all kind of in one process when you're sitting down with people. What is it primarily that you teach your team when they're sitting down with new prospects, or kind of in that process of potentially converting that person to either a customer or a business builder? What do you think are the most important keys for somebody to kind of keep in mind?
Well, the number one key is asking questions, and then I guess number two would be to listen. Because so often we go into a prospecting situation wanting to tell the other person how great our company is or how great of a team we have or, whatever we're excited about. And it really isn't about telling. It's about asking questions and listening and finding out where the person's at. If somebody is struggling, they need to be heard. They need to share with you why they're struggling. If somebody says to you that they've lost their job, you don't jump in and say, great, when can I share my opportunity with you?
Right.
You say, I'm sorry to hear that. What are you doing? Are you looking for another job? Have you put resumes out? What are you looking for? So that we can learn about who they are and what they're looking for. If somebody's an artist and they want to paint, we don't try to get them into our business. That has nothing to do with artistry and painting unless that's a means to an end for them. And I think that's the only way you're going to find out that information is by asking questions.
Right.
I think every step of the sales process, the handling of objections, the closing the sale, all of those pieces are all about really asking questions and listening. And it's people always say, I know how to ask questions and I know how to listen. And the first thing you see them do in a prospecting situation is talk. They tell everything that they know. And you say, wait a second, you told me you knew how to ask questions.
Yep,
you're like, well, I do know how to ask questions. Well, then why didn't you ask any questions with that prospect?
Right.
And they think they did because they asked maybe one question. They might have said, hi, how are you? And then launched into their spiel. But if there's one thing I can teach people, and we go over it and over it, we spend a lot of time in training talking about it, is really ask questions, develop that relationship, determine needs. And it doesn't have to be a 9-month process. You can do that in one conversation. And it really is by listening and reflecting back what the person shared with you. And all of a sudden you have a whole different conversation than if you've done all the talking.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a mentor that used to say that not only are you far more effective that way, and obviously that you're going to learn a lot more about the person by asking lots of questions, but also that the person that controls the conversation is actually the person that asks the most questions as well. You have a lot more control of the direction of the conversation if you're the one asking all the questions and learning all these different aspects about them.
You certainly do. And I have a downline that I was working with recently, and she was really struggling with a networking organization she was part of, because every time she would meet with people in the networking organization, they would both say they were going to sit down and share each other's business to see how they could work together. But she found that when she sat down, the other person would start talking about their business, and she'd never get to share her Shackley business.
Right.
So I said to her, well, why don't you take control of the conversation, and instead of letting that person tell you about their business, you ask questions. And I taught her how she could use the forming concept, family, occupation, recreation, and motivation, or money, depending on how you use the M. But so how could you use that to really find out about what they do for a living, and you'll actually gather a lot of information to see if they are a good business prospect for you or not. And so she's been doing it for the past few weeks, and she has been astounded with what she's discovered about people. She's learned a ton about them. She's figured out who's a good prospect and who's not a good prospect, but she did exactly what you just said. She asked the question, so she controlled the conversation.
Right. And real quickly, just for anybody that may not be familiar, will you just tell us what you meant by the form concept?
Yep. Forming is we teach when you're talking to people, when you're trying to figure out how to ask questions, that you think of everybody that you meet as having the word form stamped across their forehead. And so the F stands for family, so you'd ask family questions. Do they have kids? How old are the kids? O stands for occupation, so what do they do when they're not there? What type of a job do they have? What do they like about it? What do they not like about it? The R stands for recreation, so what do they like to do in their spare time? And the M stands for either motivation, what motivates them, or it also could stand for money, depends on who's using it and how they're using it. But what you find when you ask these types of questions is you actually learn a lot about the person. When you find out what they like to do on the weekends, maybe they like to golf, maybe they like to boat, but they don't have enough time to do it, or maybe they don't have the finances to golf every weekend. And so now you're learning, well, gosh, they've got a monetary need, but now you need to figure out, do they have a big enough need? Do they want to golf enough that they'd actually go out and do something to get enough money to go golf as often as they'd like to? So it's using that. The form concept is just a really easy way to teach new people how to ask questions. Of course, you've got to help them with some of the questions, because sometimes you can go off on a lot of different tangents that don't lead you in the direction of your business if you're not careful.
Right. Now, last couple of things that I wanted to ask you about before we wrap up here is you are obviously a very organized, very systematic person, and so. Well, actually, first off, have you always been that way? Have you always been real as organized and systematic as you are?
If you ask my family, they'd say yes. If you ask me, I feel like I get more and more organized and systematic the more things I put on my plate.
Sure, absolutely. So I wanted to ask you both, or two things. One, first, from a customer perspective, and then next on the distributor's perspective. But what are some of the things that you do to really that you think really differentiates you from your competition, first on the customer side?
Well, there's a lot that I do, and it's because of taking so many classes. I'm just going to go back to when you asked first, about the personal development and some of what I learned. I'll just give everybody just a quick book tip. If you read the book Raving Fans by Ken Blanchard and Sidney Bowles, that's a phenomenal book for teaching you how to give phenomenal customer service, and that's really what helps people set themselves aside from other folks in the competition specifically. People always say, well, I give good customer service. Well, I think in this day and age, people expect at least good customer service, and then what are you doing for me beyond that? So when people come into my personal group as a customer, they get a welcome letter that welcomes them to my organization, and I talk to them about all of their benefits. I give them customer benefits for being a person who is a member, customer of mine. And so some of the things that I give them is I give them nutrition support. I've got all sorts of books and CDs and information on health topics. I do a lot of good customer service things as far as every single month people get something from me. So it can be customer related in terms of a newsletter, a thank you note for an order. It can be information on products that they're using, maybe testimonials or product information about how to better use that product. But once or twice a year, I do something that I consider to be outstanding stuff, which is kind of the Raving Fans type thing, where I try to stand out from my competition to let my customers know how much I appreciate them, that I have gratitude around them being my customer. And I've done things like the Gratitude Cookie Company. It's called Zen Rabbit. So the woman who runs that company, she sends out gratitude cookies for you, and it's branded from you, and you can have your picture on the card and everything, and she takes care of it. So once again, hiring out.
Absolutely.
But your customers feel valued. I can't tell you how many thank you notes I get for my thank you notes that I send to customers. I get thank you notes for the gifts that I send out. My customers let me know that they really appreciate that I appreciate them, which sounds kind of goofy, but because it's so rare, I think, in this day and age that people do those extra things, your customers do appreciate it. So they're getting newsletters, they're getting e-newsletters and paper newsletters, they're getting education, but they're also feeling valued. So that's from the customer. From a business perspective, did you have a specific question around the business, or just in the same
so business kind of similar? Like I know you talked about your 7-week training program, which obviously I think is a big differentiator between you and other leaders out there. So if there's maybe other pieces of that you wanted to mention, or just other things outside of that, if there's anything else that jumps out at you.
Well, we have a whole system and process in place for the team, and so a lot of companies provide that. In Shackley, when I first came into Shackley didn't provide that, and it's a company that's been around for a long time, and so there's a lot of different processes I think that are in place.
Sure.
So for our team, we have a very systematic process, and we've got a website that people can plug into for information. We've got weekly conference calls. We've got a conference call every Monday morning that's interactive, where people can ask questions and talk. And we always have a topic and somebody leading it, of course, but that gives people a place to ask questions, and so that's really more for the newer distributor.
Right.
On Saturday mornings, we have a conference call where you listen. So you come on, and then we mute the lines, and they listen to a leader speak. And so this past week, we had 2 of our top leaders interviewing one another, and it was a great topic for folks who were interested in building internationally, because they were interviewing about the international expansion that their groups are having. Then we have a webinar every Thursday night. That's an opportunity webinar, and it's followed by a business builder meeting. The opportunity webinar is a half an hour, and the business builder meeting is a half an hour. And so it just gives people a place to plug in. We've also got product training on a weekly basis, and then we've got our 7-week training program. So that's a lot of different stuff that allows people to plug in. And what I found, Pat, when I first got started in the business was that there were a lot of things that I needed that I couldn't find.
Yeah.
And so I've sort of tried to fill the hole there. And so my I guess sort of my vision for the team is that there isn't any piece that's missing for someone, that all they've got to do is go out and talk to people, that everything else about our system and our process is totally seamless, and that all they've got to do is go out and talk to people and funnel them into the system. Go out and talk to people, funnel them into the system. And so
Right.
I do think that sets us apart from a lot of other folks out in the industry, but certainly it doesn't set me apart from other leaders in other companies, necessarily like the top leaders, because I think that's what top leaders tend to do. They put the system in place so that their team
Sure, creating these systems, absolutely. But yeah, you've obviously put in the time finding kind of collecting this information elsewhere to be able to bring it all together for your team.
Right.
So very cool. Well, Jennifer, like I said, I am just so appreciative to have you on board and part of this project with us. Is there anything that I haven't asked you, or any last thing that you wanted to throw out there before we wrap up here?
I just want to say one last thing about just this industry. I think that the network marketing industry is the best way to reach your full potential. And for anybody who is looking at this information, listening, reading the information, that's really excited about the potential of the industry, it really is one of those things that if you embrace it and you decide to participate, that you really can make any dream you might have come true, and you'll become the person that you were designed to be when you go on this journey, because it's a journey of self-transformation. It's a journey of learning about who you are and how you can give back to others and also give back to the world. And so I'm just so blessed to be a part of it. I've been blessed to be a part of this process with you, and so thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you again for being part of it, and thanks for everybody tuning in. And Jennifer, I look forward to the next time that we're able to connect.
I do too. Thanks, Pat.
Thanks.
Hey, this is Pat Petrini again, and just to wrap up really quickly, I just want to remind you that if you liked this interview, we've got a whole bunch more. If you go to our website, it's tmm4networkmarketers.com. That's TMM, like the Miracle Morning, FOR, networkmarketers.com. And, of course, if you haven't checked out the book yet, you can go to, first off, you get 2 free chapters of the book at tmm4networkmarketers.com. And then, of course, if you want to get the book, go to Amazon and just search for The Miracle Morning for networkmarketers.com, and you can get it paperback, Kindle, whatever. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you really enjoy the rest of the content that we've made available for you. Thanks a lot. Again, my name is Pat Petrini, and I'll see you on the next interview.